I've done them a couple of
focuses
times
on
because I
that.
look up there and I'm like, yeah, mics and speakers.
Don't worry, Mindy, I'll call Glenn afterwards and tell him that Mindy came.
I'm on day like 14 though, so.
I'm just kidding. See, that part's not on video, so I can say it. Regular meeting of the East Bay Charter Township Board to order. It is Monday, November 8th at 6:30 PM, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and we'll do roll call attendance.
Sure. Bartlett.
Yes.
Corte, S. Corte.
Yes.
M. Corte.
Here.
Walters.
Yes.
Cook.
Here.
Friend.
Here.
It's noted that Lyle is absent and excused.
Okay, thank you. Approval of the agenda. So on the agenda this evening, we have added something this afternoon that was a power plant grant resolution that's added under the consent calendar that was emailed to you this afternoon, and then a copy of that included at your desk. As well, we have also, I would like to just add at the end, number 3, a renaming of a resolution. We inadvertently double named a resolution 2021-28. So we'll begin tonight with 30, and at the end of the meeting, we'll rename the most recent second one that was named 28, we'll rename it to 29. And that was on the 3-mile trail that we did at the special meeting on the 25th. And with that, I believe you have everything that would be on the agenda tonight. Is there anything any member of the board would like added or pulled? Okay. Then by consensus, we'll move forward with that agenda. And any conflict of interest with anything? Okay, no declared conflict of interest. And so we'll move to public comment. Any member of the public is welcome to come to the podium, introduce themselves, and tell us your perspective. Any member? Okay, with that, I guess because Glenn is watching, who's not here, he asked that I let the board know that he enjoyed the MTA banquet and thought it was a nice evening. So I told him that I would say that. So
Now we can turn the TV off.
so now he can turn the video off. And if I didn't coin it right, he can clarify later. So I'm glad that he had a good time. We all did have a good time. With that, we'll move to correspondence and reports are in your packet, and that has the September treasurer's report in there. And then we'll move to the consent agenda, and we'll go over the consent agenda.
Here we go. The purpose of the consent agenda is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one board motion without discussion. Any member of the staff, board, or public may ask that any item on the consent agenda be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent agenda, the action noted in parentheses on the agenda is approved by a single board action adopting the consent calendar. This evening, you have minutes from October 11th, 2021, regular meeting, the October 19th, 2021, special joint meeting, and October 25th, 2021, budget meeting. Recommend approval. Check register summary. Check numbers from the general fund, check numbers 16590 through 16662, in the amount of $115,688.25, with voided checks 16631, 16632, 16633, 13634. The emergency fund, check numbers 4796 through 4815, in the amount of $12,601.89, with check number 4784 previously approved. And the receiving fund, check numbers 2828 through 2837, with voided checks 2834 and 2836, in the amount of $68,178.59. The escrow fund, check numbers 1767 through 1778, voiding check number 1771, the amount of $33,293.33. 2 payrolls, one from September 26th through October 9th, check number 7258 through 7262, total $52,293.27. And the payroll from October 10th through October 23rd, check number 7263 through 7270, totaled $49,059.82. And check number 7268 was voided. Total payroll amount, $101,353.09, and total amount paid, $331,115.15. You have no proposed budget adjustments, and you have road names of Chinook Drive, Coho Drive, and Mitten Drive. Precinct number 5, voting location approval, Ninth Brain contract, Planning Commission appointment, and Power Plan grant resolution.
Okay, thank you very much. So, excuse me, for clarification, I would look at the minutes for October 19th, 2021, and I would request that, let's see, I believe it's on page 11 of the packet, the third bullet point down and the last bullet point down, that those just be amended to say a separation distance between STRs was discussed. And then the last one, short-term rental licensure and its applicability to cabin courts was discussed. We'll be having further discussion and consideration of those issues, so it just takes it from a decisions point to a discussion point. And then with respect to the budget adjustments, it's correct, there's no budget adjustments, so to speak, where the board must approve them. These are cost center allowed by the General Appropriations Act, but those do have to come back before the board at the next meeting, and you do have the opportunity to change them, but they don't specifically need to be approved by the board. So with that, and we'll just go, you've seen the motions that are recommended for the A through E items. So with that, is there anything a member of the board would like removed from the consent agenda?
The Planning Commission appointment.
Sure. D? Okay, we'll move that after the renaming of the 2021-28. Anything else? Okay, anything removed? Would any member of the public like to have anything removed? Okay, seeing none, we'll go bring that back to the board. And is there a motion for the consent agenda, which would note that the October 19th minutes are amended and the Planning Commission appointment has been removed?
And you'll have that to the Planning Commission meeting tomorrow, what we approved tonight?
Mm-hmm.
I will make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Support.
Okay, motion is made by Cortade with a second by Cook to approve the consent agenda as amended. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote, Ann.
Escorte,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
Bartlett,
Yes.
M. Cortade,
Yes.
Friend.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. With that, we'll get to the business before the Township Board. First on the agenda, we have 2 planning and zoning items. The first is zoning amendment, excuse me, 4-21. Someone could help me out here, and we'll see where we end on that in the packet. Starts on page 30 in the packet. And with that, we'll have Claire, if you'll come up and join us. Excuse me, and if you wouldn't mind, Claire, would you do kind of an overview?
Sure.
Great, thank
So
you.
this first one, it's more of an administrative amendment. The way that our ordinance is written, it wasn't entirely consistent with our land division ordinance, and that was based on our legal counsel. So historically, we've had a lot of like historic plats that have been combined into maybe, 4 plats into one parcel. And so historically, the township has allowed those to be split back out at an owner's request, even if they don't meet the underlying zoning requirements. So we were had some ambiguity with staff and with assessing as to whether or not that would be permissible, and technically, because our ordinance didn't state that, there was some ambiguity because it was not in line with land division and with best practice. So this is basically an ordinance to specifically state that, like, the lot split combination must meet underlying zoning requirements, and then it's consistent with the Land Division Act, so.
Okay, and this has been before the Planning Commission.
Yep, there's a public hearing on October 5th, unanimous support for having the board approve the.
Great. Any other comments, Mindy? Okay, any questions from the board? Okay, is there a motion?
Where are we at?
Page 30.
Oh, I thought you were doing it, that's why we were waiting for you.
Just one question to clarify. So I guess I understand what ambiguity is associated with the current zoning, but it says that, to clarify that the reverting back to the original lot split would not be allowed if it didn't meet current zoning.
Correct.
So there would be an opportunity.
If it met current zoning, then you could absolutely
Okay.
split back to the
Okay.
original plat.
Okay. I will make the motion to approve zoning amendment 4-21, zoning lots and parcels. Is there support for that?
Support.
Okay, motion is made by Friend with support from Walters. Any further discussion? Okay, Ann will do roll call vote.
Sure. Friend?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Bartlett?
Yes.
Escortate?
Yes.
M. Cortate?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for your work on that. And with that, we will move to zoning amendment 5-21, which has to do with cabin courts. Would you do an overview on this, please?
Sure, and I apologize, this cabin court language was not included in your packet. It's the same language that was part of the public hearing on October 5th and in the Planning Commission packet. And the elements of it are referenced in the memo that I put together, but the language wasn't, so that's on your desk. But this ordinance amendment was precipitated by I would say by Lakemore Resort, and just a lot of the public process that the Planning Commission went through as part of that site plan review, concerns voiced by residents, neighbors, members of the public, feeling that the Lakemore Resort was not in line with the intent of Forest Lakes Overlay District, of the lakes area, and kind of the residential feeling on that lake. And so we took a closer look at the cabin court provisions in the ordinance. The way that the ordinance is written right now, there's basically no standards, no regulations related to cabin courts. There's a very open-ended definition of cabin court. And so basically a cabin court is a resort, it's transient rental, but it can be really any size, any density, so long as it's in the lakes area. So it really kind of opened the township up for more of these kind of higher intensity, higher end resorts. So the Planning Commission asked staff to take a look at an ordinance amendment. And, we looked at historic cabin courts. Historically, cabin courts are, 400 square feet to 800 square feet. Oftentimes, they're, seasonal in nature. They're rented more in the summer months. And so we found that the ordinance does allow, new transient rentals to be established in the lakes area, even removing the cabin court provision, because you can go through like the site condominium process. Short-term rentals are an option. Planned unit development. So there's still the opportunity for transient use of those properties, but removing the cabin courts kind of removes that open-ended resort land use from being permitted in the township. We have contacted all of the cabin court owners that we've been working with neighbors and others to collect a list of all existing cabin courts, and have reached out to to existing cabin courts, those would be, if this ordinance amendment was approved, those would be legal non-conforming uses in the township, can continue to operate as they currently operate, can sell their property and continue in perpetuity. So
Okay, very good, thank you.
happy to answer any questions. And Mindy, if you have anything to add.
The only thing that I want to make clear is that the cabin courts that exist right now are grandfathered in, but they cannot expand. They can't change the buildings from what the current size and shape is.
So a couple questions. Can they change hands? Can they be sold and continue as a non-conforming use? Okay. And besides Lakemore, how many other new cabin courts have we had in the last 10 years?
You know, I don't think that there has been many new cabin courts. in
So
the
this-
last 10 years. We've-
Spider Lake Resort was one. That was done under a cabin court. Because it replaced a cabin court, so even though it's like one large building, they considered it separate. I
Okay.
recall that one.
And we have had a lot of inquiries. I've just fielded phone calls of, people interested in them, but that's, as far as they've gotten. They haven't moved forward with anything.
So they can purchase it, they can improve it as long as they don't change the size or the density.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Well, you mentioned you can still go through the site plan review and all that, so you're not eliminating them, you're just changing how they can come to be,
It
no
would
longer by right.
It would eliminate them as a use permitted by right or through special land use. They could come in as like a site condo, so you could have, or PUD or something where you have, say you have 8 acres or something, you could have 8 transient units on that parcel and kind of arrange to meet the underlying requirements of like a site condo. So it would need to meet the underlying zoning requirements of square footage and size of parcel and stuff like that.
They just wouldn't be called cabin courts, right?
It wouldn't be called cabin
Yeah.
courts.
It'd be called resort, it'd be called,
Site condos.
Okay.
Or,
Site condo, and they would be required to have a short-term rental permit
for each,
for each one, yeah, if they were transient.
The biggest problem with the cabin courts is that there's no standards for it. So we have 2 options right now, the way I see it, is we can put standards on cabin courts, or we can get rid of the definition and use the existing zoning to deal with the use of the property as a cabin court, but not calling it a cabin court.
then that poses another question, if I may. Currently, we have gone the route of a general law short-term rental, so that if the legislature continues down the path they have been, we are not as impacted. But if it becomes a zoning portion, then we could be impacted. Our property owners could be impacted.
If the legislatures,
Right, if they, through the zoning process. So if, like Mindy had said, that it can be done, you could change it.
So you still would need a short-term rental license if you have a property that's acting as a cabin court.
But that would be because of zoning, not because of general law.
No, that would be because of general law, because
Okay.
that's how it would,
That's why I wanted to make sure I understood,
stay
because
under-
you
it
use
would
the two
stay-
words interchangeably.
it would stay under the general law.
So would that be one license for the development or one license for every unit?
That would be one license for every unit. For existing cabin courts, they wouldn't be subject to that, but for any new development.
again, that's if they go and change and say, add a bathroom or something like that. Expand their square footage by, some amount or something.
Or if there's a new one.
Further questions? Okay, and so had the public hearing at the Planning Commission. It was approved from the Planning Commission. I can only tell you, I know that when we've been going through Lakemore and some issues over the past year or so, if I had a quarter every time Peter Wendling said, the cabin court in your ordinance, we need to address this issue, I would have enough to buy y'all sodas.
And I think his concern is he's seen a lot of other townships that have kind of had this resort provision, kind of a very commercial resort opportunity in a pretty predominantly residential area that have gotten rid of that provision. And he said East Bay was a little bit later in the process when compared to other communities.
And what feedback have you had when Preston was contacting the current owners?
You know, Preston would be better to speak to that, but in my conversations with Preston, not a lot of, questions and, follow up, some specific questions about, the ability to expand, maybe adding a deck or, some of the specific logistics that we will get back with them on, but.
Okay, and of course, they're all aware, and if you just Google East Bay Township, you can easily find all of our meetings and notices. We're quite transparent, so it would be easy for them to know that that's on the Planning Commission agenda and as well here, too. Okay, with that, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve zoning amendment 5-21.
Okay, is there support?
Support.
Okay, there is a motion by Walters and support by Cook to approve zoning amendment 5-21. Any further discussion? Okay, Ann will do a roll call vote.
Walters.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
M. Cortade.
No.
Bartlett.
Yes.
S. Cortade.
No.
Friend.
Yes. Well, thank you very much to the Planning Commission and to staff for your work on both these zoning amendments. Okay, with that, we will move forward to the public hearing for the budget. So this begins on page 39 of your packet. And the attachments that were included, and I'll just reiterate for the public here and who's watching, that this budget was initially presented October 11th for a first just cursory overview. We held a special meeting on October 25th and to review it in more detail. And you can see the changes as a result on that in the table in the budget that's presented. And so your attachments are, we have a resolution establishing the fiscal year 22 cost of permits, application fees, licenses, and initial escrow, background on those fees, a resolution establishing the township official salaries, background on that, resolution establishing the wages with the background, rather, and then the General Appropriations Act itself, and the BSNA fiscal year 2022 printouts with the notes, and the notification of the public hearing. So with that, we'll begin with, let me just say, the rationale for including the two resolutions, one on the fees and one on the wages, was when I look back through some of our conversations through the years, oftentimes we'll look at a fee and we'll say, well, when did we look at those? Did we look at those? Was that 2 years ago or 3 years ago? And I thought this is a really good opportune time to just always make sure that we are reviewing those on an annual basis, and so this resolution gives us an opportunity to do that. And then as far as the wages, same things, we've oftentimes said, what was that pay scale for EMTs or paramedics or planning, zoning, those types of things, and this gives us a nice way to document those. Not to say that things can't change or be brought up during the year, but this gives us a documentation of a point in time, and particularly when those change at the beginning of a fiscal year on January 1st. So with that, you have in front of you the resolutions, the cost of permits, applications, fees, and licenses. There is a resolution there, and attached to that resolution is a description of each, the 2021 amount and then the 2022. There are only two changes. One is to the ZBA appeal, and you have the background packet information from when that was originally presented with the budget from October 11th. And then you'll notice that when I went through the fees, I noticed that Planning Commission had a special meeting fee, Zoning Board of Appeals did, but we never spelled out the Township Board, which of course can be an option too for some planners with, for example, say a PUD. So I thought, well, we might as well clear up that ambiguity and put the Township Board in there as well. So with that, a discussion on the resolution with respect to the fees.
I'll make a comment. I guess I kind of feel as the Township Board, we're here to serve. We're not here to be paid to serve. I don't have a problem with these other permits, applications, fees, although we did talk about the Zoning Board of Appeals fees several years ago because we were asked to move them and they were too high, so nobody was coming with an appeal. So that's why we lowered it. I do see that there has been queries done to the other local jurisdictions and to get us in line. So I guess we try it again, my thought process. But I really do not want to see that the Township Board charges a fee for people to come to us.
Sure, Mindy?
The only issue I have with that, I agree that we're here, but we usually have a recording secretary or video going on, and I think that's where, I don't think that the rest of the residents should have to pay for somebody coming to us for something, so that's why I see that there might be a fee needed.
So if I can just reiterate back, we don't pay for the video. That is part of our public access, commitment that we already do. It's not a separate fee, it's rolled in. And if we're going to have a meeting, it's not typically a single issue. We try to put it with something. I understand, and there's sometimes that I will do the minutes. I don't want to not be approachable. I don't want our residents to feel that they can't come, or developers or whatever. I understand the others, but as far as the Township Board, I don't feel we should be fee-driven.
So are you specifically talking about the $1,000 fee or the zoning?
No, just the Township
Appeals
Board.
fee.
Well, I started with the other one, but I understand that that is an appeal process, but the board, I don't see us feeing the residents, the developers to come to the Township Board.
So, other comments?
I would just, most of the time, if we're doing something that has to come to the Township Board on a special meeting, there's attorney fees and things like that. I would just say, if we're not going to do a fee, then make sure that that comes out of the escrow and even our attorney costs to get ready for that meeting. I would want any of those to come out of the escrow because it's additional costs for the township. And like Mindy said, we shouldn't have other residents paying for that.
But we do for everything we do. We levy a millage at .07 or whatever it is, I don't know anymore.
0.7.
Yeah. And that's what those dollars are for us to do the business of the township. And no, I don't agree with the idea that as a township board, we should be charging anybody to come see us. The cost of doing business is the cost of doing business, period. And that's my view. It has been for a long time. In fact, back when we lowered the fee for the ZBA was part of my push, and that's why I still would say that it should still be $50. That's just a little bit of a commitment on, skin on their part. That's what we're here for. We're here for to serve the public, and if the public wants to come to us, even if they have to have a special meeting because they can't fit it into our schedule, then that's the way it is, or fit into their schedule.
So just for a couple clarifications, so again, this was set at 1,000 and put at 1,000 only in consistency with the Planning Commission and the ZBA. This would take effect, and when this would be utilized is when a developer specifically requests a meeting of the township board. It's not for, other reasons where we may, I'm trying to think of some of the reasons we had special meetings. I've called one because pictometry, we had to have a deadline that we had to fit, those types of things. So doesn't take place with any of those. Quite frankly, the Planning Commission and the ZBA do cost us quite a bit more to have a special meeting because they are paid a per meeting fee. It doesn't for the township board. You have 3 elected officials who cannot be paid for the board because that's in their duties. The township trustees do receive an extra stipend for additional meetings, but it is not very significant. I think it's, we could look up here, I'm sure, but it's like about 30-some, yeah. So I wouldn't have any problem, like I said, I suggested and put it in here at 1,000. I wouldn't have a problem if we don't charge a fee, we should still itemize the fact that there is a fee so that if it's ever questioned, we don't have that level of ambiguity. If we do charge a fee, I do think that we can potentially, instead of charging the stock 1,000 that the other boards do to kind of cover those 7 at the stipend, we could charge, actual costs. So basically, if there's a publication notification, or if trustees were an additional amount, or like I said, so any of those are fine. It's just what the majority of the board would like to do. With respect to the ZBA appeal, number one, I would say staff did a nice job of taking a look around and seeing if we were out of line on any of these, and that is one that stood out. What we have seen, if you look back to, I think it was 2018, we had a record number of ZBA meetings, and it was just one appeal after the other appeal after the other appeal. That's not what a ZBA is for. What's important to understand about the ZBA appeal is, and I do, obviously all of us agree. I mean, I don't think any one of us can champion that we're the only ones who think that we're here for the public. All of us on this board are here for that reason. But specifically, as far as what we're set forth to do, it is to create a zoning ordinance built on a master plan, okay? And so the appeals are should be very, very specific, show a hardship, and be rare, few and far in between, because you are breaking your zoning ordinance. And what we have found is, with the $50, heck, even with the $400, we may not even be clearing the publication notification. So, and not to mention, I think, did staff take a look at the average was about 1,200, I think, that they have into the average ZBA appeal. And so, while to me, every member of this community should be able to expect a zoning ordinance and be able to try to live by that, there may be cases there's a hardship that they can't, and they have to appeal that, but that should not be the go-to, and I don't feel that that should be borne on the expense of the other residents, because it's actually quite opposite of what we're supposed to be here doing. So with that, just other comments and questions?
Well, I still stand where I'm at. I think that I actually, I'd like to see some of the other fees lowered, but I'm not going to get into that. The ZBA part is just that that's what we have that board for, and I just feel that's part of what we do here. As government, we are the judge and jury, and people have to pay to come in just because of whatever reason, I just don't see it. And I'm adamantly against the township board having to pay to come and see us, so.
And that's absolutely fine. I just give my opinion. I didn't say that to convince you otherwise. I was just stating my perspective.
On the $1,000 for the special meeting on the township board, y'all been around a lot longer than I have on this board. What's typical for the amount of special board?
Can't even think of one maybe that I can remember.
It would be one, I can't tell you when it was, but I remember.
There was a
Seems like
special
it was
assessment
close.
district one.
Yeah, that's the only one I can think of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe, I mean, really, I'm going back a long time, when we had a settlement on a PUD on a property that is still to this day isn't developed, thank goodness, but, because it's right on the shoreline there, next to the park, but that was a settlement that we had to come back and have a special meeting on the PUD, so there's, what, 2 times maybe, so.
Okay. And then, yeah, my comment on the ZBA, I'm sort of torn here because, I certainly like the idea that the township should be able to capture cost of, advertising and doing the things that it needs to do to have one of these ZBA meetings. But, when you look here that it's associated with, somebody's house, you've already got, just thinking of situations, I sit on the board. A lot of times people are asking for things like garages and, some relatively minor changes, although they are, asking for a variance to what the zoning ordinance says. They, at the time that they come to the ZBA, they've already got money in working with a contractor and sometimes, an architect and having other fees tacked on. And now, they finally get here and we're going to add another, significant amount of money to that process. Seems kind of burdensome. So I don't know how long it's been at $50. Maybe there's a compromise to increase that just to keep up with the cost of inflation or whatever you want to look at. But
Publication.
yeah, and like to your point, you're not going to get there where you're going to be able to recover all this cost, even at $400. But is that? Do you get to a point where it's almost too much of a barrier for anybody to even come to you for a fence? Something as small as a fence. And some different things. So
Sure. Of course, too, other communities would have that same issue, and they're still having ZBA meetings, and where are they at with, they're at 575, 1,000, 550 plus escrow, so those are some of the higher ones, 750. Those are quite high. Legal notice is about 135.
2, the ZBA, those people have purchased that home existing, knowing what they can and can't do on that property.
understood. Yeah.
So, because I had the same, Beth and I had the same debate, because I'm like, I had to get 4 variances to put a roof over the porch on my house. And because my lot was so small, I needed a variance for all 4 sides of my house. But
Yeah.
that's what I had, and the cost was not $50 when I did it. It was higher. But that's the cost. I knew what my house was, and that's, if I wanted that, then that was the cost of doing that.
Okay, and listening to some of the comments and trying to incorporate those into something that might work, I'm looking at documenting that there be a zero fee cost for township board special meeting at the request of a developer. And altering that 350 fee, which I do find is definitely in line, actually the lowest in the area, down to 200, which will at least cover the newspaper legal notice and the mailings that are required. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve resolution, I know we're on 30, right, Sue? 2021-30. Which is the, no, I lost my cover page. How about that?
It's your cover page is page 39.
Thank you. And the top of the resolution, let's see, okay. So resolution 2020, motion to approve 2021-30, resolution establishing fiscal year 22 cost of permits, application fees, licenses, and initial escrow with the ZBA residential appeal showing an adjustment of $150 for a total amount of $200. And for the designation for a requested meeting, the township board for developers at 0.
Support.
Okay, is there further discussion?
No, I think it's reasonable.
Okay, with that, Ann will do a roll call vote.
Friend,
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
M. Cortez,
Nope.
S. Cortez,
Yes.
and Bartlett.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. We will move on. We will move on, you guys. I just got my papers out of order again. There we go.
So you should be on page 46.
Right. Okay. So with that, we come to the resolution establishing the township officials' salaries, and these salaries are reflected in the budget that's presented to you for fiscal year 2022. The first resolution, and we pass these every year, is...
Can I interject first?
Sure.
Should we open a public hearing before we pass these resolutions?
Thank you very much, because I have done that before, not on
I just want to save
the,
us from having to...
not on the
backtrack.
salaries before, but we have done that before where we've, okay.
Do we need to do that for the 2021-30?
No,
Actually-
because that's not a statute. That's a
We will go ahead and,
housekeeping.
we will actually open the public hearing on the fiscal year 2022 budget and ask if there's anybody who would like to speak regarding the fiscal year 2022 budget before we take on the issues of the officials' salary resolutions, as well as the wages and the General Appropriation Act. Okay, now that everyone is rushing up, we will close the public hearing. Did you get the times on that, ladies?
7:13,
Okay.
and closing at 7:13.
Okay. So with that, we will consider the resolutions establishing the township officials' salaries. You have 4 in front of you. The first is for the office of the supervisor, the clerk, the treasurer, and the trustees. Does anybody have any questions on the information presented in front of them?
These are all consistent at the COLA rate of 5.9%.
Correct.
Which is what the board discussed. I am pleased to see that. I think it shows consistency, and I would make a resolution, I would offer the resolution 2021-31, establishing the township officials' salary for supervisor
Support.
I know, it was such a tongue twister, and I don't know why.
Okay, motion made and supported, and I appreciate that. My only comment is, as I mentioned this the other day with the board meeting, that 5.9 has really struck up it really in the past 6 months. I wish we would have take a look at that and maybe kind of tweak that a little bit, but if we're doing that, it is a good thing to do across the board once we determine what that level is. So no discrepancy on that part of it. But with that, any further comment? Okay, Ann will do a roll call vote.
Escorted?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
M. Cortade?
Yes.
Bartlett?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes. Okay, with that, we will move to Resolution 2021-32, and this is for the salary of the clerk. Okay, I will make a motion to approve Resolution 2021-32, resolution establishing the township officer's salary for the clerk.
Support.
Okay, motion has been made and supported. Further discussion?
Who are you going to give the support to?
I gave it to Cook.
Thank you.
We'll wait for 1 second for Mindy, just because I want to make sure she's here. Okay, Mindy, we just made a motion in support for that resolution for the clerk, and that's Resolution 2021-32. So we'll do a roll call vote, Ann?
Clerk, right?
And then-
Oh, yeah,
Friend.
it's, okay. Friend?
Yes.
Cook? I didn't think she
Yes.
was. I was confused. Walters?
Yes.
M. Cortade? S. Cortade?
Yes.
Bartlett?
Yes.
Okay, now we have the resolution, what would be 2021-33, and that is the resolution establishing the township officer's salary of treasurer. Is there a motion? I will make that motion establishing resolution, or approving resolution 2021-33. Is there support?
Support.
Okay. Further discussion? And a roll call vote?
Friend?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
M. Cortade?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
S. Cortade?
Yes.
Bartlett?
Yes.
All right, and with that, we're at the last of these resolutions for salary, for the Resolution 2021-34, establishing the officer's salary for trustee. And is there a motion for that resolution?
Make that motion.
Okay,
Do you want the amount, $7,328?
yeah, that's fine. Is there support? Okay, motion made by Bartlett, support by Walters. Further discussion? And a roll call vote. Ann?
Bartlett?
Yes.
Walters?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
M. Cortade?
Yes.
S. Cortade?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes. Okay, with that, we come to the resolution establishing the fiscal year 2022 wages. And this has, again, very similar to the fees. I thought it was a very good time to just kind of document where we're at, so that if anyone says, where were we at with the range on, EMTs? Well, we'll know. So there is a resolution in front of you, and that has an attachment that has the description of the position or grouping of positions, and has the 2021 wage, and then the requested 2022 wage, which is in the BS&A documents. And that change is broken out between the 5.9% COLA and then any other percent adjustment. And then there is documentation in here that, that speaks to the reason for those adjustments. Is there any discussion or motion for this topic?
A quick one.
Sure.
Department 265, where we traditionally have the receptionist that we're still working on for office manager communications, it's not listed.
Yep, I didn't put that in here because I figured when we finally determine exactly what that position is we're looking at, we'll come back to this board with the description and then a suggested range.
Okay.
And then when we identify somebody, we'll come back with a letter of offer with a specific amount that's within that range.
Okay. I just didn't want it to be
Yeah.
overlooked and then
Nope.
have to be dealt with differently.
Nope, that's a great question and observation, and that speaks to, a little bit to the second to last whereas, where it says, whereas any mid-year adjustments will be documented in an amendment to this resolution. And the one above that does not, this resolution doesn't hinder any department head or supervisor from recommending any mid-year change necessary. So that's what those try to speak to, situations like that.
I guess I just want to make sure that it's not going to draw down a wage, that what we're looking to do is set that baseline, that if there is an issue, it would come before the board, it wouldn't be dealt with as an amendment to this. I don't expect anyone's wage would ever be requested to be
no.
lowered. I just,
The
because we
amend-
don't pass anything like this, we looked at it last year, we didn't pass it, I just want to make sure we've had that out in the air.
Well, we did a little bit different last year. I actually had resolutions just specifically for the deputies. But then, like I said, listening to the conversation from board members, and like, where were we on this one or that one? And sometimes as positions vacant and then changed, I thought, you know what, this is a good baseline to always be able to go back and be like, what's that resolution? So for example, when we went to go do the budget this year, I'm like, okay, what were the trustees at? I don't remember what you guys make off the top of my hand. Heck, I don't remember what I make off the top of my head. But I knew if I could go back to the previous year in one of these months and pull up those resolutions, it was just that easy. And so this is kind of a nice ability to do that as well.
Okay. And I just, under Department 191, that is the elections department. We've kind of done a, taken a new look at that because of the increase in the absentee voting. I appreciate the work that you did on this. I just wanted to clarify on that receiving board. They typically, on a large election, they'll work 8 to 10 hours, not 13, because
Okay.
that's the quality control. On a small election, they may only be here 2 or 3 hours. It depends
Okay.
on how quickly each precinct reports in. So I didn't want to have that look like a negative impact. Certainly, if we have another November 2020, it could be longer,
Sure.
but it's not an expected to be
Sure.
that long.
And I think the day I was doing this, and I didn't follow up with you after that, I looked at 13 hours because I was like, okay, well, how long are the polls open?
And it's after the polls close.
Yeah, yeah, so,
They typically come in at 8:30, and then as everyone reports, they're looking to make sure all the seals are sealed right, all of the numbers are correct, the signatures are correct with the Republicans and the
Yeah.
Democrats, and making sure that everything can be recountable if there's an audit.
and no other wage in here rests on how many hours it is. It was only that one because I couldn't break out the initial amount. So I
Right.
thought, okay, let's
Yeah.
kind of just gauge
No,
here.
I understand.
So, okay, good point to note. Any other questions or comments? Okay.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 2021-35, establishing the fiscal year 2022 wages.
Okay, is there support?
Support.
Okay, motion to approve Resolution 2021-35 by Bartlett and support by Walters. Further discussion? Okay, Ann, we'll do a roll call vote.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
M. Cortade.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
S. Cortade.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes. Thank you so much, because as you can tell, hopefully you can tell, from the background work, there's a lot that goes into that staff's part, so it's very much appreciated. And with that, we will move on to the General Appropriations Act, which would be Resolution 2021-35.
No, 36.
36, sorry. And you have that in front of you. It is standard from last year. I think last year we changed a term or two on it, just to make it a little bit more easily administrated at the township. But this year, my recollection is I don't believe that we have changed anything on it. And so that is as presented in your packet. Now, again, I do want to mention the note that I had sent with the packet, which mentions that, let's see, the amount, I want to take a look at the public hearing that was in the paper. If I can put my hands on that.
It's going to be the very last page, 124, 124.
Yeah. So I do just want to note that after we've noticed this, nothing was changed in the budget. However, we did go back, and to my knowledge, I've always done 49 cents and under is lowered down, and anything 50 cents and over, I bump up. And it was requested, and I accommodated it and went back and recalculated so that wages were always bumped up to the nearest dollar. We are talking on an annual basis. This is $1 over a year. And it can be more, though, for the hourly. I bump it up to the next penny. But I think the most, it was like a $9 difference on somebody over a year. But I didn't have a problem with adjusting that, but it does tweak the numbers just a little bit on the expenditure side. So, for example, those expenditures were listed as $2,634,570, and we're at $2,634,648. So a difference of $540 to $648. So $108. So I did just want to mention that. And as well, there would be a slight difference in the special revenue fund because that does include the ambulance, which has an hourly wage in there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't see that it will impact us negatively because we do have the vacancy that we're looking to find the right fit for, so those dollars aren't going to be expended right away. So it's not going to actually show a negative impact yet. And the discussion on the zoning administrator is that the wage would come back after the certification, so it's not a true 365 day.
That is budgeted in there, though, because I didn't want to have to come back and figure that out later. So what I did was I took 2 months, because I think it's in February. Claire, you're sorry, I don't have my glasses on. You're here, Claire. Was that zoning administrator course in February?
I think he can start it's all online, so I think he can get started before February.
Okay, so what I did was I based 2 months on the wage that's in here, and then 8 months, or,
The rest.
thank you.
The other months.
The other months, 10 months.
So either way,
At the other
it's not
wage.
like we're going to blow that line item, or that dollar amount.
Nope, it is considered in here. So with that, are there questions on the General Appropriations Act or the underlying budget? And we have had the public hearing, although I am happy to open up any public comment with respect to the budget as well. But I'm seeing nobody taking a running start for the podium. So we'll see if there is a motion.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 2021-36, approving the fiscal year 2022 general appropriations.
Support.
Okay, there is a motion by Bartlett and support by M. Cortade to approve Resolution 2021-36. Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call vote, Ann?
Bartlett.
Yes.
M. Cortade.
Yes.
S. Cortade.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes. Okay, very good. Thank you very much for your diligence and attention in going through that budget process and flexibility. With that, we will go to the renaming of the resolution. You'll recall that we had a resolution for the 3 Mile Trail grant application support, and we named that 2021-28, which was already taken. And so with that, if there is a motion to rename the, that resolution to 2021-29.
Did that already go in their packet?
No. We're still trying to get grants.gov to work. Well, there were 3 of us on Friday on the phone trying to do it. 3 of us. The only thing that made me feel better was when I looked up grants.gov on YouTube, there's actually a part there that says, grants.gov is easy, said no one ever. And I thought, great. That's terrific. We appreciate that. But
At least they're
anyway,
clear on that.
exactly.
I make a motion to approve the renaming of Resolution 2021-28 for the 3 Mile Trail Grant.
EDA grant, yep.
EDA grant.
Is there support?
Or,
Motion made by Bartlett and supported by Cook. Any further discussion?
Do we need to say what we're renaming it to?
2021-29.
No, but it wasn't in here.
Okay, so
Yes.
motion has been made to rename the previous 2021-28, which had to do with the 3 Mile Trail EDA grant application, to 2021-29. Okay,
Good catch, Mindy.
further discussion, and with that, a roll call vote because we'll need it for the resolution.
Sure, Bartlett,
Yes.
Cook,
yes.
Walters,
Yes.
M. Cortade,
Yes.
S. Cortade,
Yes.
Friend.
Yes. Okay, and with that, we come to the PC appointment. That was on the consent calendar. Let me go back and see where that was on that was on page 33, oh, no, not 33.
29.
29. So currently, Mindy Walters is the board appointee on the Planning Commission, and she has some conflicts over the next couple months, and will be able to attend a few of those meetings, or it would be a complete hardship to be able to attend those meetings, if at all possible. And so to accommodate Mindy's schedule, I've asked Tracy, who has been on the Planning Commission prior to this and worked with a lot of those commissioners, to sit in on that on a temporary basis. And Tracy, you were well aware that this was on a temporary basis, and that come March, we would have another motion in front of this board to remove Tracy and reappoint Mindy. So further discussion?
Yeah, I'd pull that, because goes back to the same issue I brought up a couple different times, that procedurally, if you follow the book, says that all board appointments come to an end at the end of their term, which would have been in November at the election time. And we never appointed, this board has never appointed anybody to the Planning Commission. We've just rolled it over, and it should be a formal appointment, and that's kind of where I'm at. So as far as the back and forth, I don't have a problem with either individual as far as that goes. I just think procedurally, we should follow what procedures we should have to do, and I brought that up a couple times before, but it's never held.
Okay, good point, and this takes care of that. So, is there a motion?
There's a motion to appoint Mindy Walters to the Planning Commission at this time. And when she's appointed, then if you want to change and go through your motion, then that's the way I see it.
So Mindy has been, having such a motion could potentially, I'm not an attorney, but sometimes I like to play one on the phone when I'm talking to Peter Wendling. And I don't want to call into question any decisions that Mindy's made on a planning commission by the board making a motion that would insinuate that she was not appointed, because I do believe she was appointed. Whether it was per that policy or not, Mindy was appointed and did take the oath. So with that, I would still move to appoint Tracy Bartlett to the Planning Commission to serve as Township Board Liaison and replace Mindy Walters. And again, it comes back to that is corrected then, if that's your perspective, that is corrected and taken care of with that motion.
I believe I do have a motion on the floor. And if it dies, it dies, but then that's the way it is.
Well, there's no second. So is there a second?
My only question is, can it be worded to the fact that it reconfirms, or it confirms the appointment of Walters as the planning commissioner as of November 2020. I mean, is there a way to clarify it so that it covers it, it shows that she's been doing it, but then it also allows us to move forward? It's just a question.
So if there's no second, then that motion fails. Is there a motion to move to appoint Tracy Bartlett to the Planning Commission to serve as the Township Board Liaison, excuse me, replacing Mindy Walters?
I'll make that motion.
Is there support?
Support.
Motion is made by Walters and support by Cook. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by no? Okay, please show that M. Corte dissents. And thank you for your attention to that issue. With that, we'll bring it back to our last public comment for this evening. Don't be shy. Feel free to come up and say hello and introduce yourself if you have public comment to make. And seeing no public comment, we'll bring that back to the board. And I want to thank all of you. There were quite a few issues on here, even though we moved through it pretty darn quickly. Is it 7:30?
It is. It's 7:36.
If Glenn is watching, we're not going to make any connection between an hour meeting and Glenn being here, just saying. So with that, if there's no objections, then we stand adjourned. Everybody have a good evening.